Everyone, my name is Diya Patel, and today I'll be presenting my brand audit on Coca-Cola for brand management. Coca-Cola is one of those brands that pretty much everyone in the world has some sort of an interaction with. It's a carbonated soft drink beverage that's been around since 1886 and now is sold over 200 countries worldwide. In this audit, I'll be walking you through the brand's history and background, taking a look at what makes Coca-Cola tick from a brand perspective. I'll also be sharing some of my consumer research that I collected and then wrapping up my findings and recommendations. So, starting with brand overview and history. Coca-Cola has one of the most fascinating origin stories in the business world. It was actually invented in 1886 by a pharmacist named Dr. John Pemberton in Atlanta, Georgia. It was originally formulated as a non-alcoholic nerve tonic, so that's not exactly the refreshment brand we know today. It wasn't until businessman Asa Candler purchased the formula that Coca-Cola really became the commercial brand we recognize. And interestingly, one of the biggest drivers of its global expansion was World War II. The company supplied the beverage to US military personnel, which essentially planted the brand in markets all over the world. Now, no brand history is complete without a crisis moment, and Coca-Cola's was in 1985, when they launched a new Coke with a tweaked formula. The public backlash was so intense they had to revert back to the original recipe within months, which actually ended up reinforcing how much people loved the original product. Fast forward to today, the Coca-Cola Company operates across more than 200 countries with thousands of products in its portfolio. Moving on to the parent company and brand portfolio. Coca-Cola is owned and manufactured by the Coca-Cola Company, which is publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange. Interestingly, the largest single shareholder is Berkshire Hathaway, which is Warren Buffett's investment company, holding approximately 9.3 shares, as you can see up on the screen. Now, when we talk about Coca-Cola brand specifically, it has several sub-brands sitting under it. This includes Coke Zero Sugar, Diet Coke, Cherry Coke, and Vanilla Coke. These are all variations of the original formula targeting different consumer needs. But the broader Coca-Cola Company portfolio goes well beyond just cola. It includes Sprite, Fanta, Dasani Water, Powerade, and Minute Maid juices, making it one of the most diversified beverage companies in the world. This portfolio breadth is actually a key strength. It means a company can capture consumers across multiple occasions, needs, and demographics. Now, looking at the competitive landscape, Coca-Cola is a clear market leader, holding approximately 43 to 45% of the global beverage market share, which you can see here on the screen. Their closest and most direct competitor is PepsiCo, sitting at around 23 to 26% of the market share. These two have been in a long-standing rivalry, often referred to as the Cola Wars, competing on taste, pricing, and marketing for decades. Now, the interesting third competitor I've chosen is Red Bull. Red Bull technically operates in a different category of energy drinks rather than soft drinks, but it is the second most valuable soft drink brand globally behind Coca-Cola and Pepsi. And as we will see later in the consumer data, Red Bull is actually outperforming Coca-Cola in some really important brand dimensions. So while Pepsi is Coke's direct market rival, Red Bull represents an indirect but growing threat, particularly among younger consumers. So, moving into the brand inventory, starting with brand elements. Coca-Cola has one of the most iconic visual identities ever created. The Spencerian script logo has remained largely unchanged since the 1880s, which in itself is a remarkable statement about brand consistency. Paired with the signature contour bottle, introduced in 1916 specifically to differentiate Coca-Cola from imitators. And that unmistakable red and white color scheme, which is Coca-Cola's visual identity and is instantly recognizable across every market in the world. The color red is central to everything. It communicates passion, energy, and excitement, and it's the anchor for all of their marketing material. In terms of brand voice, Coca-Cola has always built its identity around universal human emotions, such as happiness, refreshment, and shared moments. Think of the polar bears, the Santa Claus ads, and the Share a Coke campaign. It's always about people connecting over a Coke. And their slogans have always reflected this consistently across decades. From the It's the Real Thing to Always Coca-Cola to Open Happiness and currently Taste the Feeling, each one reinforcing the same emotional territory. Moving on to target market and segmentation. Coca-Cola's overall approach is what we call undifferentiated mass marketing, meaning they're not targeting one specific group, they're going after everyone. Their primary demographic is broadly aged 12 to 45, spanning across all genders and income levels. That said, there is a deliberate strategic focus on Gen Z and millennials. Not because older consumers aren't valuable, but because winning younger consumers early is how you build long term brand loyalty. If you get someone drinking Coke at 16, chances are they'll still be drinking it at 40. In terms of psychographics, Coca Cola targets people who value youthfulness, fun, and authentic social connection, which is why you see them consistently showing up at sporting events, music festivals, and cultural moments. And they've been smart about capturing the health conscious segment too. Rather than losing consumers to water or juice, they've brought them into the Coca Cola family through Coke Zero Sugar and Diet Coke. So instead of replacing Coke, they're extending the brand to meet evolving consumer needs. It's a really well rounded segmentation strategy that allows them to maintain mass appeal while still speaking to specific consumer values. Coca Cola uses value based and segmented channel pricing, meaning pricing varies depending on where you buy it, capturing consumers across different need states. Distribution runs through 250 plus independent bottlers worldwide who handle local manufacturing and delivery. And in terms of recent campaigns, they've shown up at the biggest global stages: Paris 2024 Olympics, FIFA Women's World Cup 2023, and the Every Coca Cola is Welcome campaign celebrating cultural diversity. Now, looking at points of parity and difference, Coca Cola shares the basics with competitors like it's widely available, carbonated, caffeinated, and cola flavored. But what sets it apart is its emotional branding, its secret formula that's never been replicated, its timeless visual identity, and over 130 years of heritage. These are the things competitors simply cannot copy. For my primary research, I surveyed 10 respondents ranging from under 18 to 45 plus, using a 12-question MCQ format comparing Coca-Cola, Pepsi, and Red Bull across 5 dimensions: awareness, performance, imagery, judgments, and resonance. You can see the full survey and raw data in the appendix at the end of this video. Looking at the consumer survey insights, the following chart breaks down how our 10 respondents rated each brand across 7 different dimensions. Coca-Cola dominated availability, a clean sweep, 10 out of 10. It also led on taste and authenticity, but 2 findings really stood out. Pepsi won value perception, 6 to 3, and Red Bull completely owned excitement, with 7 out of 10 respondents choosing it. Overall, preference and loyalty were closer than you'd expect, with Coke at 5 and Pepsi and Red Bull both at 3. These numbers really tell an interesting story that we'll unpack in the next slide. So, what does the data actually tell us? Coca Cola's strengths are clear. It's the undisputed leader in availability, taste, and authenticity, and consumers consistently associate it with words like iconic, timeless, and nostalgic, which confirms its heritage positioning is landing. But there are 3 gaps we need to talk about. First, despite positioning as an everyday accessible brand, Coke loses the value battle to Pepsi. Second, Red Bull owns excitement, which is a problem because excitement has always been central to Coke's brand identity. And third, loyalty among younger respondents is splitting within 18 to 24-year-olds, leaning more towards Pepsi and Red Bull, which is a real long-term risk. You can see this visually on the perceptual map where Coke sits premium and traditional, Red Bull premium and exciting, and Pepsi affordable and traditional. That gap between Coke and Red Bull on the excitement axis is exactly where the brand needs to focus. So I've got 3 strategic recommendations for Coca-Cola. First, they need to reclaim excitement, invest in music festivals, gaming sponsorships, and creator-led campaigns to win back younger consumers. There is a risk that we could alienate Coke's older family-oriented audience. Second, we need to address the value perception problem. Rather than discounting, we need to focus on value messaging, particularly for Coke Zero and Diet Coke. There is a risk that promotional pricing could damage premium brand equity. And finally, we need to deepen Gen Z's loyalty through UGC campaigns and loyalty programs before brand switching becomes habitual. The risk is that these campaigns can feel forced or inauthentic and could actively damage brand reputation.